FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is September 13th, 2017, coming to you from storm-ravaged Florida. If the show sounds a little bit different than usual, please forgive us. My home has been out of electric, off the grid for the past 3 days. It looks like they're about to get it back up, but I can't go back yet. It's so hot here. Even if I could do the show, I wouldn't from the home because it's just, it's 90 plus degrees and the humidity. It's just choking. Hey, as always, email us at kl@kerrylutz.com with any questions or comments. Stay tuned today because I'm going to be interviewing Andrew Hoffman. He's got a new gig. He will tell you all about it. That's coming later this afternoon. In the meantime, we've got Woody O'Brien back with us, abolishfiatslavery.com. And Woody, welcome back here.
Hey, great to be with you again, Kerry. And it's interesting to watch Florida go through a prepping lesson for what happens when you have a disaster and you have no electricity.
Yeah, it's a minor inconvenience to say the least. Well, I have to say, so I've had this plan always that if ever there's a bad hurricane and I had to evacuate, I would go to Orlando because Orlando, since Disney World was built, has never been hit with a hurricane. It's in the center of the state. I mean, you had to have a monster hurricane to hit Orlando. And sure enough, we had that monster hurricane. It hit Orlando, but I was all prepped out. I had flashlights. I had food. I always keep a couple of cases of water. And what I did was just filled up every large pot in my house with water and threw it in the refrigerator. You just want the water. But then I decided, it's too close to Palm Beach County. We could really get hit badly. I don't want to stay here if it's a Category 3. I'd probably stay if it was a Category 1 or 2 even, milder Category 2. So go to Orlando. I go, and I've already told you about this if you've been listening. I find the last motel in Orlando on the internet. There were no other availabilities. I waited too long, and it turns out to be a welfare hotel, Woody. And it's like
we're getting to see how the other half lives.
Yeah, well, I know how they live already, and I don't want to be one of them. But you don't know from the road that it's a welfare hotel. But the girl had just started that day, put me in the back of the place where you couldn't see it from the road, and that's where all of the full-time residents, shall we call them, in this finer hostelry resided. And they had like prison tattoos, and there were like 5 kids that lived in this motel, and they think they've died and gone to heaven. They can ride their bikes all over. They got a swimming pool they can jump into anytime they want. They think this place, Woody, is paradise on earth. And when they started upping the estimates of the hurricane's strength, I said, this place is just not going to be sufficient to protect me from the storm. I better get the hell out of here. So I looked around, and fortunately, a lot of people had canceled their bookings because they found out maybe Orlando wasn't going to be so great. And it just turned out I got a room in a Holiday Inn Express, and the place was like paradise compared to where I'd been. I mean, literally at the other place, Woody, I had my Glock on the nightstand because they were like checking me out. I had the best car in the place. Yeah. Not that the car was that great, but we basically, got the hell out of there and got to the Holiday Inn Express. And I really thought I was at, I thought I was at Mar-a-Lago, compared to where I had been. Yeah. It was the most insane experience ever. And,
Florida's going to be a mess for a while, and I have to say it's going to be interesting to hear the stories until all the electricity is on in places, all the electronic payments that can't be done. I'm predicting there's going to be a lot of barter transactions that are going to occur in Florida until everything is back online, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all transpires.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that you are correct. I wouldn't doubt it because there's when you always think, well, what would I do if the traffic lights don't work, And, and then you get to find out.
It's always an interesting experiment in kind of anarchy where people are forced to, without sources, to get along with each other and their own mutual interest and without government. And I would say it's always an interesting experiment when it occurs. I live in West Virginia where we don't need storms to barter. Especially in the eastern part of the state, barter is as normal a thing as sunshine. But in places like Florida, where it's more of a just-in-time economy, it's going to be fun to see people adjust.
Yeah, well, I have to say, even though I'm a real skeptic in the ability of government to do anything right, as far as what government can do here and their role, they were pretty amazing. Our governor here was really good, and they just really moved on this thing. I would almost say that they're proactive. I mean, I know that's pushing it for government. I mean, that's the least thing that government usually is, Woody. But this time, they were really proactive, and
well, they were proactive in responding to circumstances that they were the creators of. Of course, government can't create hurricanes and storms, but it certainly can subsidize people building in areas where there should be no building, with flood insurance and other kinds of programs that incentivize people to be right in the path of what we know eventually will come. And I would say if you look at a town like Miami, if they had to pay a free market price for the insurance in beachfront properties, nobody would build one because they would be uneconomic. And to me, that's always the issue when you have these government subsidized programs like flood insurance. You're transferring money to people who want to live in places where no one should live, and to build properties which are guaranteed to be, knocked to their moorings every 20 or 25 years, and people who didn't make the choices to pay for it. So when states respond and locals respond well, they're responding to problems that they have created in a problem reaction solution kind of environment.
Yeah, well, no doubt there's some truth to that, for sure. But this goes back 50, 60 years to the advent of federal flood insurance.
It does, but the moral hazard is no different than bank bailout here, because you're basically setting up a system of storm welfare where we're all tugged at the heartstrings for people who, get underwater in these things, but we don't remember that was their choice to be there in the first place and accept a subsidy in order to live in these places. And as much as I hate to appear heartless, the math of this stuff is very, very simple. And it's another one of those places. I mean, in terms of federal spending, it's not a lot, but it's one of those places where, free market rules just don't apply.
Yeah, well, look, I totally agree with you that they shouldn't be subsidizing development within these known flood zones. It's a pointless endeavor. And certainly, if you have it, it should be like one flood or two floods and you're done. You're not getting any more insurance. But that being the case, we don't live in a perfect world, and this is what's happening.
No.
So, and the fact of the matter is, look, regardless whose fault it is or anything else, what are you supposed to do once the disaster hits? Maybe rebuilding, not a good idea, but maybe, just maybe, you should. You got to help the people who are there, obviously, and that's what they did. So, in any event, let's get on to the topic that's on everyone's mind. And again, if you got any questions or comments for Woody or myself, the email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. And we're talking about gold. Woody, what's your take on what's happening in precious metals now?
Well, I think basically what we have is a renewal of fear in global markets. You have an awful lot of markets around the world that are really inflated, really bullish kind of conditions. Of course, Bitcoin is the most bullish of all of them, but it's very easy to say that stocks and bonds are at the end of the longest bull market we have seen ever, and they're supported only by monetary policy. They're not supported by any economic fundamentals. And at some point in time, the Federal Reserve is going to have to choose whether it's going to throw the stock market, the bond market, or the dollar under the bus. I think the foreigners are very, very fearful of Trump. They dislike him in a way that even the American left does not. I think you see that in how the dollar has been beat up since Trump became inaugurated, and money is obviously flowing to gold, but it's still not flowing to gold at a rate that really does more than just monetizes the decline in the dollar. We're still not seeing commodities really jump on dollar declines, even though they've got good supply-demand dynamics. But I think, especially now that we're over this $20 trillion official debt level, we're getting into an environment where more people who are managing billions of dollars are starting to give gold a second look, including hedge funds. And I think we may be at the cusp of an environment where globally people stop to think about treasury bills as a safe haven and start to think more about gold. And, obviously there's a limited amount of supply that's out there. It wouldn't take a whole lot of demand push for gold to get us to $1,600, $1,700, $1,800. But I think at the end of the day, we can reasonably say that although I still think we're going to go down and retest 13.5, 13.10, people who say we're going to go under $1,000 and that this is just a rally in a bear market, I think time is proving them wrong. We've got a great-looking technical chart on both gold, not quite as well on silver because there you're more to some economic demand issues, especially in solar and medicine. But at the end of the day, the fear of inflation is real. The fear of counterparty risk and tail risk is real. When you have this point collapse, which is breathtaking in its scope, and it has got come. I mean, we had a gigantic drop just in the past 48 hours when Jamie Dimon said he would fire anybody who worked for J.P. Morgan who was trading Bitcoin because Bitcoins are worthless.
Well, no, hold on. He didn't say they were worthless. He said it was a fraud and it was going to blow up. And if there's one person who knows about fraud, who's an expert in fraud of all types of financial fraud.
More fraud than probably anybody in North America.
Yeah, could you pick a better person?
But well, I think the part of Bitcoin that is so hard to believe is I just saw a thing on John McPhee about how lax the security is in Bitcoin and how hackers are going to soon be able to hack into Bitcoin wallets and basically empty them out, transfer the Bitcoins around in a couple places, and you'll never be able to get those back. Mm-hmm. So to me, Bitcoin is the epitome of a tulip bulb bubble that has got to burst. Congratulations to all the lucky people who were smart enough to buy the cheap and sell out and take a real profit and make some real money. I am reminded of by my wife often that if I had taken my title insurance money when we bought our farm, put it into Bitcoins, we could have paid off the farm in a couple of years and be still living there debt free because they've but it's all fluff. It's all imaginary money, and the idea that anyone would buy a Bitcoin versus having silver in their hand to me is it's an act of insanity. And when you think about what is going to be catalyzing event that really causes these markets to face reality, I think it's a very good, better than 50-50 chance that the crash that's coming is going to be triggered by a Bitcoin collapse. Mm-hmm. And that money is going to be running from Bitcoin, and that's going to tumble into other places. You're going to have a spillover like a contagion. And to me, the thing that's going to be the beneficiary of that is all forms of bullion, everything that's bullion related and everything that's commodity related, especially commodity assets that are at ridiculous prices, like coffee and grains. I mean, we're in an environment where every month 6 million new people are born net births over deaths. They all want to eat 3 times a day, and we have food prices for grains and things like coffee, which are ridiculous given the fundamental backdrop. So we're in an interesting environment. The idea that the stock market hit a new all-time high because the Florida storms weren't as bad, to me was a shocking a bit of this reality, because no matter how bad they are, there's hundreds of billions of dollars worth of stocks and bonds that are going to have to be sold in order to pay whatever the claims are going to be between now and Christmas. That's an awful big headwind for blue chip dollar markets. So it's an interesting time to be sure.
Yeah, interesting time. So I think Houston was really the bad one, but most losses in these storms, what you have to understand is most of them are not insured. Most of the losses are paid for by you, the taxpayer, and by you, the homeowner who's not covered by insurance, and you're effectively self-insured. And you can think you've got the greatest insurance in the world. Or worse, you're covered by insurance.
Yeah. Or worse, you're covered by insurance and you're not going to get paid.
Yeah, that can happen. That definitely happens.
Every storm event that I've seen in the past 20 years comes with insurance fraud. It's as sure as the sun rises in the east. When you have one of these events, there's going to be contractor fraud, there's going to be insurance fraud, there's going to be appraisal fraud. Yeah. There's going to be people who aren't going to get paid because they're going to claim it was water instead of wind. This is going to go on for a long time. It's going to waste a lot of time. It's going to waste a lot of money.
God, yeah. So, and the biggest fraud is by the policyholders saying, why did I pay my premiums all these years? I'm going to sock it to State Farm or Allstate or whatever insurance company it is. And, there's huge profiteering going on with the insurance adjustment industry. All this, let's not kid ourselves here. And the government is easy to steal from anyway. So in these situations where we've got to do something to help the people, we've got to get them back on their feet and rebuild, that just totally lends itself to fraud. And you can't...
It does. And I would say, look at the example of Haiti a couple of years ago. We said all these things about Haiti, and we poured a ton of money in with the goal of helping people, and we managed to make a bad situation worse. I mean, we gave so much rice to Haiti. The people who grow rice in Haiti are all out of business because they couldn't compete with free rice. I would say it's the first most difficult thing to do in America, maybe to create a financially independent person. The second most difficult thing is to successfully give that away in a way that doesn't destroy people's incentives to provide for themselves and does not adequately punish people who make bad decisions and bad mistakes. Yeah. And this is just a part of our human nature, especially in a country that is still relatively religious, to want to help the downtrodden and to want to help people who are, have had terrible disasters in their life. But in doing that, you become the insurance company for people's bad decisions. Yeah. And that always has lots of unintended consequences. I joked with someone the other day who said to me that, someday I'm going to be older to have a lot of money and I'm not going to have any heirs. And I said, well, what I may do is give away all my bullion, put all my possessions in my house, and set the house on fire on my last day, just so the state won't make any money on my estate. Nobody will have to pay a transfer tax on the transfer of my house. I'll be dead. I won't really care. But I'm as concerned about what inheritance does to people and what large trust does to in terms of their ability to do for themselves. There are very few people that you can give $5 or $10 or $100 million to in a lottery win that they're going to wake up tomorrow and live the same life that they did before. It's going to money changes things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, look at all those people with the lottery.
And money that didn't earn. Say people spend money they didn't earn in a completely different way than they spend money that they did earn. It goes all the way back to that rule about you're going to be most efficient with spending your own money that you earned.
Of course.
On yourself.
Not a question about it.
And
that's very true.
And when you start to spend somebody else's money on somebody else, that's when inefficiencies economically are baked into the cake.
Institutionalized altruism. The government is the great giver. Anyway, Woody, we got to go. So your website, best place to find you? AbolishFiat.com. I'm still only Woody O'Brien on Facebook. All right. And hey, any questions or comments? Again, KL@KerryLutz.com. Twitter feeds @KerryLutz. It's starting to heat up for some reason that is a total mystery to me, but you can tweet us and whatever, retweet, retweet, whatever it is. Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. Woody, it's good checking in with you. Hey, I'm glad somebody else bought the farm, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Very good, Harry. Take care.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.